What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to an all-new Mentor Monday. I hope you are all doing well on this fine Monday to start the week off. Thank you all for joining me. I see some folks in the chat already. Some folks were waiting before the stream even started, which is always quite humbling. So thank you all for being here. I see some new names in the chat, which I'm super excited about. And hopefully some of you new names will call in today. If you don't know, welcome to the stream. My name is TAETRO. I'm your electronic music mentor. And today is a show called Mentor Monday, where I take calls from the community and we talk about some of the more philosophical, less technical aspects of being a home studio music producer. I think today's going to be a cool show. I'm going to try to keep it to an hour today. We've been going for almost like 2 hours, but I will do my best to take all the calls. You can call in via Zoom. You can get Zoom on your phone or your tablet, on your computer. It's like that video conferencing software. You don't have to be on video or anything. We'll just communicate with audio. And the stream will hear you. I'll hear you. And we'll have a nice chat. We'll talk about some of your questions. I like to start by talking about some stuff, like something that's on my mind that can provide value to you all. But real quick housekeeping, hopefully you all saw the new performance with Orba by Artifon, their new MIDI controller synth looper. I've got a performance video up with that. If you saw it, let me know. If you didn't, head to the channel and check the latest video. Also, a lot of this cool content that we're doing for Mentor Mondays ends up in the podcast feed. So you all should totally check out TAETRO Radio on your favorite podcasting platform. I've got a great excerpt today called Giving Your Beats Away to Build Your Name. But there's also tons of other content on the podcast feed, which is available on all the podcasting apps. That was Spotify, but you can pretty much get it anywhere. TAETRO Radio on your favorite podcasting app. I'm so stoked for you all to be here. Oliver Kerr says close to 100K, which is true. We are on the road to 100K, which I'm very excited about. It seems to be slightly accelerating. Not only that, it also seems... Did I hit 94 today? I didn't check today. Somebody check for me. I know last night we were very, very close. But it seems like we're accelerating through. I'm excited to make some more videos that will hopefully bring in more audience, more new audience members. But I'm super stoked for you all to be here. Real quick, let's say hello to whoever's in the chat. If you are watching later, you can watch this live every Monday. I try to go live at 10 a.m. EST. You can chill with us, watch live, call and ask questions. If you're watching it later, though, let me know in a comment because I'm not sure who is watching this later on. I see Kosik, Mr. McDoodles, Samuel Messiah, Manisha Patel, Saharsh, Audio Duck, what's up, my man? My mom and my dad. NEH Studios, what's going on? Jacob, Matt Morrison, Nick Lovin, Rev Sabes holding it down, Nova Beats, Ayush, what's up, what's up, what's up? Kyle, hello, good to see you. Orajo, Tyro White, what's going on? Ray Calvin, hopefully I don't skip anybody. Carlos, hello, welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here. Cigar, hello. I will take questions from the chat, but I will prioritize some calls, and I also want to get to like doing some stuff on the notebook to start things off today. Raul, hello. Patel, Manthan, what's up? Gabu is here, hello, welcome. Nux, hello. Aditya, what is going on? Jonathan Rodriguez, hello. SZY, what's going on? And then it just kicked me to the bottom of the chat, so hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Kipster G, hello. Brandon Rico, what's going on? I'm going to drop the Zoom link now, so folks, you're going to get into a waiting room, so I don't take your call right away, and I take calls one at a time. So the Zoom link is dropping in the chat as we speak. You're put into a hit enter. Put into a waiting room. What's up, Jay Vinci? What is up, Pink Noise, Silver Alt? What's going on? You'll be in the waiting room. I'm going to do my little spiel first. Little 5-minute spiel on how we can take care of our time management as music producers, and then I will start taking calls. But use the link that I just dropped in the chat and start filling up the waiting room, and I'm just going to take the calls in order. So hang tight in that waiting room. Make sure your audio is all squared away. Make sure you mute the stream when I call on you because it'll be the stream's a little delayed and we'll be chatting in real time. But anyway, today, if you follow me on Instagram, The post today was a clip from another Mentor Monday where I talked about time management, but I kind of just went over it in the context of the caller's situation. And I think it's an exercise worth diving into more deeply for all of you and really showing kind of how this all works, because a professor did this for me when I really needed a reality check around how I use my time. And I think that this is a very useful exercise for anybody who wants to do stuff like we want to do. Like, we have the audacity to want to be music producers. We have to be very deliberate about how we use our time. So if you want to grab a pad and paper and do this with me, we can do this together. And everybody's situation will vary greatly, and I will need a little help with the chat as well. So let me go ahead and say what we're going to talk about today. So the bottom line is there are 168 hours in a week. We all have 168 hours in our week, right? Regardless of who you are. Now, how do we spend the 168 hours is the biggest question. So let's start taking things away. Chat, start naming some things that, all of us do. That have to get subtracted from this 168 hours per week. Hello, Basha. Nice to see you. Hours per week. Yeah. Work, sleep. Perfect. Let's start with those. So let's say if you work full time, and for those of you who don't work full time, this will actually be an over exaggeration, and that's okay. If you work full time, that's usually about 40 hours. However, I definitely had a full time job as well that I worked about 50 hours. So let's overestimate and let's say 50 hours for work. Remember, we're subtracting all from this 168. All right, that's our work. Let's overestimate and say 50 hours a week. Sleep, right. So the recommended 8 hours, I suppose. Let's say you sleep 8 hours 5 days a week, so that's 40 hours. And then 10 hours on Saturday, 10 hours on Sunday. How much is that? 60? Let's say we sleep 60 hours of that. What else? What am I missing? Yeah, so school. So hopefully this 50 hours, if you do work / school, that will fit into the same kind of category. What else? Yeah. So let's start. These are very, very base needs. Let's say you take an hour of eating every day. What do you think? 2 hours to eat every day? Like spending across different meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Maybe you spend a total of 2 hours eating. Just meals. So that's what, 14 per week? Maybe some of you, hygiene, self-care. Let's say that's an hour a day, maybe for some. Is that a good estimate? Let's say you spend, if I spend 20 minutes in the shower, washing my face, shaving, I think that will automatically add up to an hour. Yeah, and we're overestimating too. So let's say 1 hour per day. So that's 7 hours per week. That's self-care, hygiene. And of course, this is just like an estimate. Some of what you do will stack up differently. Maybe you have a little less work hours, but you have a little more self-care time, something like that. Yeah, chilling with friends, recreation, exercise, good. Like daily chores, or weekly chores. Let's say that's about another hour a day. So let's say, because do we do an hour of chores a day? Maybe. Let's say 7 hours per week of chores. Let's start subtracting here because I see a bunch of other stuff dropping in, and then we'll start to kind of add in more things. So we have 168. We're going to minus the 50 for the full-time job. We're going to minus 60 for the sleep. We're going to minus 14 for the eating. We're going to minus 7 for the self-care. We're going to minus 7 for the chores. And we are down to about 30 hours. And I would say that these are all the base needs. Everything else is kind of extra on top. 30 hours. Great. Homework, we'll lump that in with school. We got 50 hours allotted for work/school. Yep. Okay, now we're left with 30 hours. Let's say you're like me and you love to play, what do I play? Maybe like 6 hours of Call of Duty a week? Maybe. We'll start adding some recreational stuff in. So like 6 hours of video games that's what it is for me. But for you, switch that out for whatever recreational activity. Anything else? What else? How about family time? And like, how about just general mental health? So like chilling, watching Netflix, watching YouTube. What do we do that for? Like an hour a day and then less? Maybe we watch a movie one day, so it kind of stacks up. Let's say like 9 hours. 9 hours of like chill. So let's still subtract. You have 6 hours of the week to do something recreational, like play video games. Then you have 9 hours of just chill, either watch YouTube or... And then you're left with 15. And this is pretty, what would I say? This is pretty lenient, right? Because I'm giving you like 15 hours here of just chill time. So let's really look at these hours, folks. These are like some very, very base things that we absolutely have to do, right? Like we have to go to work and go to school. You judge for yourself. Is this a full 50 hours for you? If not, do the math. We have to sleep 8, then that's with a gracious 8 hours, 5 days a week, and then 10 hours on the weekend. We have to eat. Some of you probably can take some time away from this as well. Again, you should be doing this at home. An hour a day for self-care or hygiene, an hour a day for chores. Those are like our very, very base needs. After that, we're left with 30 hours. 30 hours is 10 hours shy of a like typical work week. 30 hours means you can take the weekends off. Let's see. You can work on, if you had just these 30 hours to do whatever you wanted, and you really want to be a music producer, for 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, you could spend 6 hours on music per day. When's the last time you spent 6 hours a day on music? And remember, 6 hours a day on music after work, sleep, eat, self-care, chores. After all of the very basic needs that take up all your time, right? All your time. You have 6 hours a day left over. Doesn't always stack up like that because maybe you got to stack some on the weekend because you go to school all day or go to work all day on Monday through Friday. So maybe instead, you could actually you have 30 hours left over. Maybe you're spending Saturday and Sunday 15 hours each. Maybe take 5 of those hours on Saturday and Sunday away so you can, have some fun with the recreational activities. I guess the bottom line is be super realistic about your time. Do this exercise specifically for yourself and really be realistic about yourself about how much time all of these base needs take. That's important. Separate the base needs and the recreational, because I think recreational stuff is important for mental health. But if you're really trying to make great strides in your music production and being an artist, you're going to have to take some time. Maybe you'll have to take some time away from this to really plow ahead. But even if you spend 15 hours of recreational time to yourself a week, that's a lot of time, 15 hours, first of all. You're still left over with 15 hours. How are you going to dedicate those 15 hours per week? and then forget about that. Forget about recreational. At the end of the day, after all your base needs, you're left with 30 hours. Are you taking advantage of those 30 hours per day? Or are they getting lost in something else that doesn't really matter that much? After your base needs, you have 30 hours a week. This is going to vary for some people, give or take. I'm willing to bet that some of you have more than 30 hours after base needs. I don't spend an hour to eat each of my meals. I probably don't spend an hour of self-care / hygiene. It just doesn't take me that long. For different people, it's different. I definitely don't sleep 60 hours a week. So this number could be higher. 30 plus hours. 30 plus hours, folks. Don't just take my word for it. Don't just use my chart. Do it for yourself. Start at 168 and work yourself down. Subtract your work, school, your sleep, your eating, your self-care and hygiene, and your chores, the things that you have to do. And then from there, figure out where your time is going. And then say, okay, I actually have 30 hours a week. How am I going to spend my 6 hours today, my 7 hours tomorrow, my 5 hours on Wednesday? Set up your whole week like this. Time management. That's the spiel for the day. But I think it's time to take some calls. What do you think, chat? We have been talking a lot, and I think that we can grab some calls. We got a few waiting in the waiting room, which I'm very excited about. Let's start with Brandon. Brandon, make sure you mute the stream. We're connecting to audio for Brandon. Brandon, make sure you mute the stream. Hey, what's up, Brandon? Just in time to hear that advice.
How's it going, man?
It's going great. How are you? For those of you who don't know, Brandon, who is in the chat, has a great YouTube channel that you all should check out. Oh, that's the little one. The little one's excited to be on the show. That's funny. Well, welcome, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks. So I have a quick question. And I have some concerns about like channel growth, brand growth.
Totally.
And just overall, music stuff.
Yeah.
I've been trying to grow my on YouTube as well as, just in general.
Totally.
Numbers like subscribers and stuff on YouTube are growing daily.
Good.
I'm not really seeing the reflection of that, the views on the channel. So I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong or if I am doing anything wrong.
Right. I don't think that you're doing anything wrong, and this is something that I have also dealt with myself. If you go to my channel and you look at some of the videos and you kind of look at some of the highest viewed videos, and also just on the back end when I look at the analytics, my top videos for, the past 90 or the past 28 days, they all involve one particular controller.
Okay.
The Akai MPK Mini, regardless of if it was Mark II when the Mark II was out or the Mark III when the Mark III was out. So like literally, if you look at my top videos, they all say like Akai MPK, Akai MPK, Akai MPK. So what that tells me, the information that tells me is that a bunch of people are coming to my channel and subscribing for the Akai MPK Mini. But of course, you consume my content and others in the chat consume the content. You obviously see behind me that I have lots of other fun stuff that I like to use that's not necessarily the Akai MPK Mini. So I'm assuming that all those folks who come in and subscribe for the Akai MPK Mini, when a video like Launch Key Mini or a video like a vlog or a hardware thing comes up, they're not so likely as to click.
Yeah.
So you got to really look at your analytics and figure out like where are those people subscribing from, and if they subscribed on a particular video about a particular piece of gear, or they just liked the format of a particular video. It's about kind of trying to keep up with that audience, because when we try to do lots of different stuff, that same audience doesn't always pop back in. However, it's a balance. So I didn't just give up all my other controllers because the Akai MPK Mini was the most popular. I still like other controllers and I still like doing content with other stuff, but I'm realistic with myself and knowing that if I go out there, and I do something with like the Orba, for instance, no, first of all, it's a new product, so it has a little hype around that, but it's not going to do nearly as well as like my Kai MPK Mini Mark III video. Like it's just not. And I have to have that realistic expectation, and it is a balance because I'm trading off getting crazy views for doing content that I like to do, which keeps me happy. So like it is this balance between you want to both be happy and you want to have a successful YouTube channel. Now, what does that mean? That means that at least once a month, I'll probably do a video with the Kai MPK Mini to keep that audience, you know, occupied. And I think the broader audience enjoys it anyway. But then I'll do a bunch of other content throughout the month that is just stuff that I want to do. And hopefully we hook in some of those folks that subscribed specifically for one thing. But there are some folks who are interested in one thing and one thing only, and they're only going to show up for that. So it's the most you can do is just try to keep yourself happy. But also you want to build the audience. So still doing things to that both please the audience and keep you happy. It's a tightrope to walk for sure.
Okay.
But be super deliberate and examine. Like it's even so far as to like I can look at my top videos and let's see. Like if I look like this in the thumbnail, we all know this. If I look like that in the thumbnail, the video has a ton of views. Like, so does that mean I want to do a keyboard comparison every single day? Of course not. But maybe can I hedge it? Can I do like one a month and still be happy? Of course I can. It's easy. Okay.
That makes sense.
So
I'll try to keep that in mind with my future content. It's just, it gets discouraging when you're putting out so much, especially the stuff that you're passionate about, and you're not really getting the views.
Now, like you might not be getting the broad views, but are there still people showing up to that video who really care about what you do, and people who show up to every video? Because I have, that's something to value and to be super proud of, because I have some videos with 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 views, and then I have some videos with 1,000 views. Which if 1,000 people showed up to a video that's like not for a broad audience, that's not a keyboard comparison, that's maybe a vlog or something more personal or out there, I'm super proud of that, because those 1,000 people, but you know, you got to build up the flagship content that brings in the broad audience, and then that broad audience will filter down into some dedicated fans. And if you can really build up a community of people who are dedicated and want to be a part of your channel and what you do, that's more valuable than having, you know, like a 1 million viewed video and everybody forgets who you are.
Yeah. I don't want to make content that's forgettable, that just gets the viral views. But like you said, just building that community. So
yeah, it's a long game for sure.
Okay. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much for calling in.
No problem.
Have a good one.
All right. You too.
On that note, guys, y'all should find Brandon's name in this chat. Brandon Rico Simpson. And go subscribe to his channel. Click on his name, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep rolling with calls. I got John Wyatt up next. That's who's coming in next. Stoked for y'all to be here today. Hope y'all are enjoying Mentor Monday. Just getting into it with the calls. John Wyatt is connecting with audio. Hopefully he meets the stream. And we'll see what happens. I can see. Oh, hey, John. Let's connect via audio, and we'll be good to go. Thank you, Brandon. Thanks for hanging out in the stream. Oh, John, you're here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Where are you calling in from today?
What's up, brother? I'm calling from Michigan.
Amazing. Welcome to the show. What's your question?
Well, I had a couple of questions. You know, I tried to narrow it down.
Let's do it.
But I guess it'd be kind of difficult for you to answer without knowing a little bit of my background.
Sure.
Which I don't want to take up a bunch of your time here, obviously. But basically, I've been a live, performing musician and recording for about 20 years now, the traditional route. And so I got to a point where I was touring full time and stuff, and then had a car accident that kind of took me out of the game as far as that goes. So then I tried to go more so with keeping occupied with music and still being able to record with going the home studio route.
For sure.
So I picked up some equipment back then. and I had an impulse and innovation, and ended up getting the Launchpad Pro, and had kind of a learning curve working with that stuff, which I'm still kind of doing.
Totally.
I had the Ableton, the light version back then. By the way, I just first wanted to say I appreciate so much what you do, and support that obviously with Patreon and stuff. And
thank you.
Would encourage people that, man, there really needs to be more people doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
And I eventually want to go that route as well with being a mentor, or giving lessons and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Yeah, it's a perfect time for it because you can have students anywhere now with Zoom.
Yeah, for sure. So as far as the home studio route goes, more recently I've just decided to go with the full version of Ableton. Great. And to try to get the home studio boosted up. So I picked up the SL MKey Mark III. And I saw the video that you did on that with
nice.
The things you like.
Yeah.
And also bought your tutorial or whatever on ADSR.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the course. Yeah.
The course. Yeah. So that's been real helpful. But I guess one question would be kind of, as far as for me, basically with incorporating this as my goal, I still play live music, and we want to incorporate the electronics similar to some of the lo-fi vibes you do.
Totally.
It's kind of the route that I was going with, incorporating that with live music. So that's why with the Launchpad Pro, I saw that would probably be the best route for me to go for launching clips and scenes and all that kind of thing. I'm having an issue with trying to get everything set up the right way with MIDI, with Ableton, and I know you've been doing that for a long time. So, kind of get your suggestion on how to get that going better, because when I'm linking it up, it's not exactly working out right. Where I should be able to just go from track to from channel to channel with different instruments and the drum rack and stuff, and it's just not.
What's not working? I'm curious.
Well, something's not right in my settings, I think, with the ins and outs and the sync and stuff like that, and preferences,
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm not really sure where I'm going wrong with that.
Yeah.
But basically, to get the drum rack, I couldn't get any sounds to come out when I have the grid on. And then when I switch over to note mode, like on the Launchpad, I'm getting my drum rack there. So that was really weird. And then, one of the things I'm really wanting to learn is, the onboard sequencer with the SL.
Totally.
And kind of how that links to Ableton as far as like uploading those tracks and recording those sequences into Ableton, into the session mode and stuff. So, I'm still really studying hardcore. Fortunately, with being disabled, I've got a lot of time to dedicate to this.
Yeah.
So I do spend a lot of time on watching videos and trying to learn that, the best route to go there. But, kind of wanted to get your opinion too. That was my second question was, I know you've got a lot of experience with the launch key and, with now, kind of tampering with the SL a little bit too, and getting familiar with that and the Launchpad on how to use those two together.
Totally.
The best way,
Yeah. Well, first off, I would just go ahead in your preferences, make sure everything is set up properly, make sure all the, number one thing people skip, I think, is go to preferences, link in MIDI, and you gotta select your controller as the control surface, especially with stuff with the SL Mark III and the Launchpad Pro, because they have very specific scripts for them to work with Ableton Live. And what you're talking about is being able to bounce between different tracks and being able to arm different stuff and control different things. That should all work should you have all those control scripts and the templates selected in link in MIDI, and then you set it to, DAW in or DAW out on the input and output. As long as all your preferences are set up properly, that should work. Then you want to make sure your track arm is exclusive. So when you go and arm that drum rack, nothing else stays armed. You bounce off your synth, you arm the drum rack is armed, you go and arm the synth, it unarms the drum rack, and it arms the synth. So just double check your preferences and all that and make sure everything is kind of set up according to plan. The second thing I heard was about the SL and using the sequencer. And I would just take one step back from that. and the only reason I say that is because it can get a little bit messy and confusing. So the SL sequencer is great. The biggest use for the sequencer on the SL Mark III, I would say, is for hardware, because you have hardware, or like I've got hardware like the Micro Freak, for example, which is an Arturia synth. It doesn't have a sequencer on it. All I can do is play notes with it. So if I pair that with the SL Mark III, now not only can I play notes, but I can sequence notes, obviously. So that's the intended purpose. With Ableton Live is one big sequencer, like it's a DAW. You can loop the ideas, you can record the ideas in the DAW. If you start sequencing things specifically,
like in control mode.
Yeah, the in control mode. If you start sequencing, I was just gonna say, if you start sequencing things specifically on the SL Mark III, it could be a fun way to work. Actually, there's like some fun things about the sequencer, but then you would want to go in and record it in Ableton Live and then stop the sequence or get rid of the sequence on the SL Mark III. So it gets a little messy there. So really take a look at what you're trying to do and figure out if it's worth using the sequencer on the SL Mark III, or if Ableton should just be your main hub sequencer, as that in control mode, because it might get a little messy trying to switch between the two, and I don't want you to do too much with too little. But when you're using two controllers, go ahead.
The thing that attracted me the most to the SL is, I've played piano kind of by ear for years and stuff, and I have an idea of how, obviously, how melodies work and bass lines and all that, and putting all that together. And I like, not being able to actually read music yet. I like the scale mode, and I like the arpeggiator and being able to ping pong and doing different things with that.
Totally.
And I like what that does, and I just want to be able to record those things and do the automation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In Ableton, so it's definitely a lot to learn, and I didn't, without even getting into any external hardware kind of.
Right. It's not just a lot to learn. It's also that there's so many different ways of doing the same thing. That is the most daunting. So if you can really like hone in, like don't get lost in your options, like analysis paralysis. There's just too much to be able to do. It's kind of. It can be daunting. So try to really focus and limit yourself a little bit. With the two controller setup, though, what I wanted to say is, if you want, like, you have a Launchpad, you have the SL, so those are two controllers that can be dedicated to certain things. Could the SL be specifically for playing musical ideas and using the knobs and faders, while the Launchpad is specifically dedicated to launching clips? Because the SL can play notes really well. Of course, the Launchpad can too, but you don't have as much of a note grid as you do on the SL. So like, could you dedicate, like really simplify it and don't try to do too much with both of them, especially when they're each so good at a bunch of things. Really dedicate each controller to a specific purpose. Okay, the Launchpad is going to be specifically for launching and looping clips and transport controls. SL Mark III is going to be strictly for playing notes and then messing with some parameters like filters and track volume and stuff. Like really simplify your setup and dedicate certain gear for certain purposes.
That's mainly what I want to do, is use the SL for the home studio and laying down the tracks and all that, and getting the clips all set and all that kind of thing. And then, kind of laying that out and full tracks and stuff like that, and being able to launch those clips live just using the Launchpad Pro, because obviously I'm a drummer too, so
there you
I'll
go.
be playing drums and launching clips at the same time. So I prefer to just use the Launchpad Pro, for live performance.
Oh, even better. Yeah. I think that's a totally capable controller of doing that. You have a lot of multitasking to do, jumping from drums to Launchpad at the same time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But cool, man. I appreciate your advice, and I'm glad I got to finally connect with you.
I'm stoked that you were finally able to call in. Thank you so much, John. Good luck.
Thank you.
Peace out. Let's keep going with the calls, folks. Gabu, thank you so much. Yes, we are on the road to 100K. And it seems like lots of us are having fun. Let's keep jumping through. Let's grab Malphite in the calls. See a lot of good questions. Hopefully y'all can help each other answer questions, etc., etc. Malphite, you're on the show. How's it going?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
everything fine with the audio? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So, hi. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk with you.
Of course. Where are you calling in from?
So first of all, excuse me. Sorry for my English, but I'm from Germany, so it's a bit tough
okay
to talk. Okay, so I've started with a music production like 6 months ago.
Great.
And I have a problem with getting inspired by something. So around these 6 months, I've worked only on one song, and that's the problem, because every time I start to make another song, like that chord progression, starting with chord progression or something, it doesn't work. I always stick to my one song that I'm not finished yet, like 4 months later. And
what's drawing you back? What's drawing you back to that same song? What's bringing you back to it?
So I started with the song because I saw a YouTube video about I saw a YouTube video, and then there was in the background was a chord progression, and it was like, oh my god, this chord progression is so nice.
You were inspired by it.
I was inspired by this chord progression, so I took that and made my own song, my own songs. I have on
great
genre. I say it's like melodic rap mixed with heavy guitar solo. So I mixed it and it worked, everything fine. But I don't want to work always on this one song.
Of course not. What you got to do is you got to put your situation into recreate that spark of inspiration. I mean, I think it's so cool to hear you say that you were watching some video and in the background there was a chord progression that inspired you, so you decided to grab it and make something with it. But you got to remember like why you decided to pick up music production in the first place 6 months ago, and try to bring yourself back to that point of inspiration, which means you've got to immerse yourself in different kinds of music and different kinds of art that's going to inspire you. And it can be, if it's in the background of videos, great. But if you also have music that you love listening to, and then it's also about discovering new music too, like in just being on Spotify or whatever you use, SoundCloud, to listen to music that you've never heard before, and doing exactly what you did initially and taking the bits and pieces that you really love from that and making it your own. At some point, you also you'll develop a discipline to either finish that track, that first track that you started, finish it, or say, regardless, it's done, or get rid of it, because you're gonna hold back your own progression, not working on anything else. But don't hold everything to a certain expectation. You're just starting, so you haven't even experienced all the different processes and all the different ways that you can make music. So take the time to try doing things different ways. The one time it worked for you, and that's why you're clinging back to it. That's why you want to go back to it, because it feels good, because it worked. But you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know if you're going to discover a process that feels even better. Or can you recreate that process? If that process felt so good that you keep returning to this project, start a new project, but recreate it with the same process and just come up with a different sound or a different genre or a different feel, different tempo, whatever. Just ease yourself into it, and don't worry or don't put too much pressure on yourself, is what I mean to say.
Okay.
It's hard.
I don't know what to say, but yeah, that's true actually.
If you really love that chord progression and you're sick of working on that track, start a new track with the same chord progression. Use different plugins, use different presets, use different whatever. But the other challenge is you don't want to get stuck on that. So what I'm saying is really go listen to a bunch of other music, or find music that you already really love and say, hey, this chord progression's different. Let's try this one. Or hey, this melody is cool. Let's try doing melody. And just challenge yourself that way. Today I'm going to start with drums. Tomorrow I'm going to start with melody. Then on the third day I'm going to start with chords, etc., etc. You know, like really, I talk about that all the time, like limiting yourself and challenging yourself, like putting yourself into a box. Today I'm focusing on melody. that means you can't worry about anything else, you know? But sometimes we sit down to do music and we worry about everything all at once. And that's something we want to avoid, because that can be very, that can put a lot of pressure on you, and it can be a very overwhelming way to approach music.
Yeah. So like making this whole collaboration, like, I don't know, funk or jazz song, just because I can, or what?
Just because you can, and because it's a creative challenge. And because it's something that's going to spark something new. It's not just about taking that chord progression and making it into a new genre or something. It's about once you do that, and once you're in a different groove, then maybe you start laying down a bass line that's different from any other bass line you've done before. And then maybe you discover that you really love writing funk bass lines or something like that. And that inspires the next track. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to start walking down different paths to figure out which one is going to bring you to where you want to go. But if you don't start walking, if you just travel the same path every single day, you don't know what's on all the other paths. There could be something amazing on all the other paths, something that you love even more. But right now you're kind of sticking to the safe path. So how can we ease ourselves in to a new path? Well, we can bring something familiar along with us onto a new path, and that'll help us discover new things.
Yeah.
And you're 6 months in. You just told me you're 6 months in. Like, you have time. You have time to experiment. You have time to fail. I said this to a caller last week, but the music you're about to make, everybody who's just starting out with anything, whether it's video, music, or whatever, you're just starting out, you're 6 months in, you're about to make some of the worst music that you will ever make. You have to embrace that. Like, that's super real, and you have to not be afraid of that. But for you, right in this moment, it's going to be some of the best music you've ever made. But for you, I'm talking to you in the future, because I'm a time traveler. A year from now, it's going to be some of the worst music you've made. And a year from now, you're going to be making some of the best music that you've made. But if you don't start that pathway today, a year from now, you're going to be where you are today. You don't want that. So start today, make as much as you can, learn as much as you can, and grow. And let yourself grow over time, and don't put so much pressure on yourself.
Actually, that with growing, I had this 5 years ago and 11 years ago, I think, because it's not the first time that I'm into music. I started music when I was 3, and then I switched when I was 14 to guitar. So I was a noob in that on guitar. Yeah. I was like, it's fine, but it was embarrassing. I don't know why.
Because that's human. That's a very human thing. Anytime we start something new, and especially music, we're putting ourselves out there. We're performing. People have to endure whatever we're creating. So of course, like, that's a very human reaction. But if you embrace where you are in your journey, like, set your expectations. Of course, like, it's going to be slightly embarrassing, because there's no way that you could start music production 6 months ago and be as good as a platinum selling music producer, whatever. So what are your expectations? Your expectations should be that your music's going to sound like you just started music production 6 months ago. That should be your expectation.
I don't know how does it sound, but
it sounds however it's like. But that's the thing, your journey is your journey. It sounds however it sounds right now. The thing about it is, you have to just trust that if you stay diligent and keep working, in a year from now, it's gonna sound miles better than it does now. But you only get there by working diligently and embracing your 6-month progress sound and growing from there. You have to start somewhere.
That's true. Okay, I think
you got it, dude. Don't give up. Yeah. Don't give up, and stick with it.
I do. I will never give up. So
awesome.
Yeah, I want to make money with that. So yeah.
So you can. So you got to work even harder. For you, it's not just a hobby. For you want it to be a career. You got to work as hard, or if not harder, than most people. So go back to the beginning of this stream and rewatch the time management speech or whatever lecture that I gave, and really do that math for yourself, because you're gonna have to put in a lot of time in if what you just said is true. You want to make it your career.
Yeah, I want to study music, so I guess I have then enough time. But yeah, I have to start now.
Start now. You have to start yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
Yes. All right. Good luck. I hope I can hear from you
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank you for calling in.
Wise words. Thank you.
Peace out.
So.
Great call. Great call. Hopefully y'all can take a lot from that. All right. Young Nuggy, you're up. Also, you all are learning from home, and I did a video the other day. This is not a plug, but a video the other day with 2 months of free Skillshare, which I think you do have to enter a credit card, but as long as you cancel it before the 2 months, you can get 2 months for free Skillshare, and it's just free classes. You should just do it. That's all I'm going to say. Young Nuggy, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. Where are you calling in from today?
Calling in from Taiwan.
Taiwan. I think you were my first caller from Taiwan, to be honest.
Oh, nice. That's pretty good. You got to start somewhere.
Well, welcome to the show. What's your question today?
Yeah, thank you. So my question is about the marketing side, I suppose, or...
Love it. I'm excited.
So I've made a few different songs, and every single time I make a song, it's a completely different type of music. Done a lot of hip hop, some punk rock, acoustic music, electronic music. None of it really fits together. There's not like a cohesive theme. And so
you mean genre-wise, style, sound-wise?
Right. Yeah. And so I'm looking at putting my music on Spotify, and I've been looking at the different distributors that they have that you could go through.
Totally.
And so I'm not too sure, like, if I should maybe make music under different like artist names and put them out there, or if it would be okay to put everything under one artist name on Spotify, or I don't know which direction to go in.
Well, so let's not be paralyzed by this decision, and let's try to solve it and try to figure out which way. It could go either way. And there's two ways, I think, that are very obvious to go about it. First of all, for what I use DistroKid, and they have sponsored some videos, so that's just a disclaimer. But what DistroKid, like, I have a label account, which means I can release music under like a bunch of different names, so it solves kind of that problem. Like all year, you just pay a yearly subscription, and you can release as much music as you want under like 7 different names on a label account or something. So that's something to look into, just logistically. But my point is on that is, if you do have a bunch of different sounds and a bunch of different stuff you have, musical genres you like to work in, it really is worth thinking about creating music under different names and under different identities. Because say you have one song that does really well, and it's like, I'll make this up, it's like a boom bap, like hip hop thing or whatever. And then the next track you put out is like a synth wave, 80s, whatever, electronic track.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. But the audience that loved the boom bap track is not going to love, the electronica, synthwave track or whatever. They're just not the same audience. So if you release under different names, you have actually options to get in front of the people who really love what you do the most, because you can be very clear. Because even think about the aesthetics of what you want to present as a boom bap hip hop producer are not the same aesthetics you want to present as a synthwave electronic, music producer. It's 2 totally different worlds to live in. And the audiences respond to 2 completely different things, not just the sound, but how does the album art look? How do your photos look? What does your bio say? Like, the audience responds to all those different things. Now, so that's me advocating for different genres, different names, put out a ton out there. And it's like you're fishing with, we're back to fishing again, because I did a fishing analogy once, but it's about throwing all these different types of bait out, and maybe one of them catches, Maybe you throw out one piece of bait, like 5 different kinds of bait, and one of them really works. If you're catching mad fish with that bait, well, what are you going to do? You're going to really focus on using that kind of bait so you can catch more fish. And if you're at a stage where you are creating a bunch of stuff, you're finding yourself artistically, and you're liking making different types of genres, then take full advantage of that opportunity, make music under different names, figure out which bait the fish go for, and then double down on that one. I'm going to now do the reverse side of the coin and tell you how you could probably make it work so that you could make all this different kind of music under you just being you. if you look at different artists, like Andrew Wong is a great example on YouTube, on this platform.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And what do you notice about Andrew Wong's work is like he'll put out music that's different genres, like all over the place. Like it's all kind of rooted in electronic, but it can also be like genre wise a little bit, like I said, all over the place. And I also listened to a band called the 1975.
They're great.
They're great. And if you listen to their latest album, I believe the latest album, it opens with a heavy metal song. And then they've got like a Jay Dilla inspired, like smooth track. Then they've got a straight up electronic track that sounds like a Brian Eno track. Then they've got like an early 2000s pop track. So what I'm saying here is like, think about like Andrew Wong and then the 1975. The reason that they're able to do what they're able to do is because they spent a lot of time on the front end creating one thing that people really liked, whether it's really cool videos or whether it's really cool like rock pop music. Built up this avid fan base that now they can do basically whatever they want to do. And they've built up a big enough avid fan base that they will show up regardless of what genre or whatever they're creating. They're showing up for the person. They're showing up for someone like Andrew Wong. They're showing up for the band, the 1975, even though every track they put out is like a different genre. The only reason that they're able to do that is because they spent a lot of time early on building up an audience and focusing on one thing. So they built up trust with an audience. They built up a relationship with an audience so that they could build to doing what you want to do. So to bring it back to the original question, 2 paths you can take. You can go the path of release a bunch of different stuff under a bunch of different names, casting out a lot of bait and figuring out which bait works the best and then doubling down on it. Or the longer route, I think both of these will probably take some considerable amount of time, but the longer route is, of course, building up your personality, building up who you are as an artist in a really focused way and really focusing on one area and then branching out later on. And it all depends on where you're at and what you want to do. If making tons of genres and music makes you happy and that's what you want to do, I would go with path 1. If you are thinking about trying to focus yourself into certain genres or certain styles and you really want to just focus and improve on one thing, then I would go with the second route. But you have the choice there either way, and you should make the choice based on what's going to make you most happy.
Rock on, man. It sounds like I need a big old bag of bait.
Exactly. Go for it. Yeah. And like I said, DistroKid is perfect for that because you can have a label account and you can do like 7 things. Like 7 artist names and just release all year. Like I think it's like $80 a year or something like that. But then you don't have to pay. Yeah, you don't have to pay per release. So say you release, 10 releases a year, you only paid $8 per release. That's nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as music stuff's concerned, that's extremely cheap. So
for sure. Well, I hope to hear some of that music soon. I would love to. So make sure, like, if you can comment or call in on a future show, keep us posted on how it's going.
Sure. I've got some stuff up on YouTube I could send to you, and you can jam out to it one day.
That would be fantastic. Please do.
All right. Cool, man. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
At many points in our artistic life chat, different paths will present themselves, and one is not necessarily better than the other, except for your situation specifically. So like we said in that call right there, like there were 2 perfectly viable pathways to doing what the caller wanted to do, but one of them was going to make him significantly more happy. And that's a decision only he can make. They were both good pathways, but you got to choose one, and you got to choose the one that's going to make you most happy. Okay, we have up next Ashok. Let's get this next caller in here. Y'all are hyped around the 94K, huh? Ashok, am I saying that right? You're on the air. Testing one more time, Ashok or Ashok. Guess it's not working. I'm going to throw you back in the waiting room real quick and jump to another caller. I'll try you again in a bit, and we'll see if we can get you back on. let's go ahead and bring in Daniel. We have a lot of Daniels calling into the show. That's what I'll say. Yeah, and then there's people like Matt Morrison. Going off that last call, Matt Morrison has an eclectic taste and loves musicians that do different types of genres. So that's cool too. Daniel, hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, Nick.
How are you? Where are you calling in from?
Calling in from the United States.
Epic.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
First of all, I would like to say thank you for making this stream. You're really helping a lot of people.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in and listening and calling, and I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah. So pretty much, I grew up, in music pretty much. Like my whole family is like a family of musicians, I guess. And I just love music, but like I'm recently just like getting into like the music production stuff. Like just 2 weeks ago, I bought like $700 worth of like equipment, like a microphone, keyboard and stuff like that.
Great.
And now I'm like looking at getting like Ableton Live, but mainly it's just like I'm just like confused as to like how I should start out my progress and stuff, because I'm planning on making making a career out of this. I just turned 17,
mm-hmm.
and I'm planning on getting making it like a big career of mine.
Good.
Yeah.
Epic.
And I just
you don't know where to start. Tell me about your musical skill level. You come from a musical family. Does that mean you took like lessons and stuff when you were growing up, or maybe you were away from it and everybody else knows music? What's your musical skill level?
Well, I'd say like intermediate, I guess. I'm mostly like a percussion guy.
Cool.
I don't really know much about music theory, which is what I really struggle with, and which is what I really want to know about. And
good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, luckily there's lots of resources out there for music theory, and I've talked to a lot of percussionists and drummers that kind of fall on the same, I won't say deficit, but have that blind spot of music theory. So music theory will definitely be important to you. Did you get a keyboard? Is that what you said earlier today?
Yeah, I got the Keylab 49 from Arturia.
Perfect. A great way to just dip your toe in the water of music theory is just sitting down with that keyboard and learning the chords, like learning some chord progressions and some songs that you really like. Because if you learn enough songs, say you learn like 4 or 5 songs that you really like, just straight up the chords, you'll start to see some similarities, and you be really diligent about what you're noticing. Like, oh, hey, this is a major chord, this is a minor chord. Kind of just pay attention to what you're doing. And then from there, really look into some deliberate, like learn music theory, learn chord progressions, whether it's YouTube or a Skillshare or whatever. Or if you want to go to school for it or something. But so it's take some time, really learn some songs on the keyboard. That's a great way to dip your toe into the water of learning music theory, because that's going to come in handy when you're writing your own music, because you're going to want to know how to write your own chord progressions. You're going to want to know what makes a good melody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So one way to really do that is analyze the music that you love and really learn how to play it yourself so you can take from it later. And I know you said you're thinking about Ableton Live. I think it's a great choice, especially for you as a percussionist. I think there's lots of electronic artists that started as percussion players, and it's definitely worth checking out some of the Ableton stuff that they have out there. Like Bink Beats, for instance, is like a really inspiring looping artist. He does a lot with hand percussion and different types of drums and playing instruments. He uses Ableton Live. I would just check him out, Bink Beats, just to be inspired and see what's possible. Also, I'm missing one. Shigeto. Shigeto. He's like a straight up drummer, but also does like drumming and beats in Ableton Live. It's worth checking out his live sessions as well if you really want to be inspired by that. I think Ableton Live is a really great way for you to go. A major step for you is, of course, going to be picking that program that you're going to be used to making music. And I'm not sure if you're planning on being more performance based or more just like straight up produce records based. Maybe you don't know right now. Maybe you want to try both. But Ableton Live does both of those really well.
Yeah. pretty much like the thing I want to do is I want to be a producer, but I want to like make music as like I want to produce my own music.
Of course.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Ableton Live is the way to go for that, for sure. I think you would not be disappointed with Ableton Live. And you might even be able to still get the trial for 30 days. Some of the gear you have might have come with Ableton Live Lite. But it's worth the investment, especially if you're a student. I know you said you're 17, but student discount on Live, if you really wanted to invest in it, do it while you're a student and you have a student ID, because you can save a lot of money.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's a big tip.
Yeah, I bought Ableton Live when I was in college, and I saved a ton of money. And now I have upgraded to 10, and the savings keep going on because once you upgrade, the upgrade price is cheaper.
Yeah.
So it's worth investing in for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I don't know, like either like I also have like a problem with genres of music. Like I take a lot of inspiration from many different sources of like vastly different genres of music, like hip hop and then some like jazz and stuff like that.
Totally.
Like one of my biggest inspirations is like Jacob Collier and Moonchild.
For sure. So that's really heady music theory stuff.
Yeah. And like recently, like you said, I've been trying to learn songs on the piano, like from Moonchild and stuff like that. And like I want to create like music that's like a mix between like those like genres and like hip hop and stuff like that, and just like make my like pretty much like my own genre of like all combined like stuff like that. I don't really know how to explain it.
Yeah, that's perfect. I understand the I think you're seeing it as like a disadvantage, and everything you just said I kind of see as an advantage. The first thing is if like you're jumping into the deep end with trying to learn that music on keyboard for sure. And just be aware that is like really, you're jumping into the deep end, meaning it's going to be pretty difficult. And there's easier stuff that you can learn to ease yourself into keyboard playing for sure. So if you're getting disgruntled, or if you're feeling down that you're not able to learn this stuff, that stuff is really tough. So just be aware of that. You could probably go to something a bit easier. The second thing is everything you said about like gathering inspiration from all these different sources and combining it into something new. That's a huge advantage. That's going to make you sound different. And then the last part of that is you're 17. And when I was 17, I was writing like love songs with the acoustic guitar and like playing in Hot Topics and, like writing super folky kind of music. So what you create is going to evolve over time. So if in this moment, that's what you're feeling like creating, learn as much from it that you can, because I learned a lot from writing like pop tunes on the acoustic guitar that I still apply to my music today. So live in this moment of creating what you feel like you want to create, following those instincts, learn as much from it, and just embrace the fact that your style and your interests are going to evolve over time. And the music you're making right now might not be the music you're making 5 or 10 years from now. You'll probably evolve, but you can still learn along the way, and you can still create something really cool.
Yeah. I totally understand that. I'll be taking that into account when making my own music, but just enjoying doing it and not feeling it as more like a job and just doing it,
Absolutely. There's no reason to rush into that idea that it's got to be a job. It's got to be whatever. Just make some music that like you're really digging and that you can take from all your different influences, and it inspires you, and maybe people will come along for the ride, or maybe it's a learning experience for you, Yeah.
I just have one last small question.
Let's do it.
It's like a hardware issue.
Sure.
Pretty much with the Key Lab, I got Ableton Live Lite, and I searched it up on YouTube how to set it up, and like it just told me like, oh, it should connect automatically because the keyboard's pretty much like made for it, and like it did work, but like some of like the switches, like I tried to like adjust the cutoff and stuff like that, and it would like completely like adjust a completely different parameter than like what I wanted it to do, and I just don't know like how to like change that.
Sure. Well, I talked to an earlier caller about this, but in preferences, make sure you have your control surface selected as the Key Lab, and then your input, output, etc. But then also with using MIDI keyboards and stuff to adjust parameters, if you click on a specific effects rack or whatever, say you have an EQ and you got that track armed, you've got your keyboard on, and when you click on that specific effect, it's got a blue hand, a really small blue hand next to the title of the thing. It'll say like EQ8 and it'll show like a little blue hand in that title bar. That means that is what the controller is controlling. So make sure you have the proper effect thing selected. Make sure that blue hand is in the right place, because these controllers are trying to do a bunch of different things all at the same time. Make sure that blue hand is in the right place. It could also be that the specific knobs or keyboards, knobs or faders are meant to control specific things. Like say the faders are automatically set to volume, or the knobs are automatically set to pan and send or something like that. So there could be different pages pages that you could have to be on to control an effect rack or something like that specifically. So take a look at that, check for the blue hand, make sure it's selected as the control surface, and try to go from there.
All right. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Thank you for answering my questions. I feel definitely a lot more confident.
Awesome.
In going into this. So thanks for that.
Thank you so much, and I hope you call again in the future and keep us posted on how it's going. Thank you for calling in.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good one. All right, let's keep it rolling with the calls. All right, we're going to close the lines for now. I'm going to take these last few calls. We're going to keep plowing through. Ariel, just make sure you unmute yourself, and then you are in it. Good to go. Hey, Ariel.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Welcome to the show. Where are you calling in from?
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm calling from Argentina.
Great. Amazing. Cool. What's your question?
Yeah. So I've started producing just a couple months ago as the quarantine started. And one of the things that has been holding me back the most, I think, which I know might sound like something that is not as important, but it really matters to me. It's that whenever I want to, let's say, master a song that I finish, I want to hear it as I would hear it in Spotify or whatever, right?
Sure.
So what I do is I make the final adjustments. I get my limiter, and I try to take it up to, well, it's either up or down, but to minus 14 lifts, Yeah.
Trying to make your track nice and loud.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. What happens always, every single time, is that the volume is still very, very quiet when I compare it to songs from Spotify. And what I did to basically try to solve this, or at least try to understand what's going on, is that I would rip the audio from Spotify with Audacity and then get it to the analyzer
and compare
and see
them.
how loud the tracks would get. And they would always be minus 14 lifts, which is the volume that they should be at, right? So there's something that I am doing wrong for sure, because whenever I finish tracks, they're always either 3/4 of the volume that they should be, or like half.
What DAW are you using?
Ableton. And I'm not normalizing the volume for sure.
All right. Well, the thing that I'm doing, first of all, I kind of stopped worrying about, I don't know if maybe I just got my mastering workflow to a level where I don't have to worry about it anymore, but I stopped kind of worrying about the loudness war after a while, because there's one thing that I have to embrace as a home studio music producer, and it's that, like, I'm not a mastering engineer or a mix engineer, and I'm not at Abbey Road Studios, so I can't necessarily get things to the same level that a lot of people doing music production can, just by basic technical barriers. But that also said, Spotify is doing a bit of compression anyway. Spotify is making things for the most part all level, regardless of what you send to them, because they're kind of taking care of it on their end. The other thing is too, I was talking to Basha about this, I think last week, because she was having a very similar problem. And one thing, I do my stuff in Ableton Live as well. My mastering chain consists of a glue compressor, some tape emulation, which adds some saturation, an OTT compressor, which helps me compress specific high, mids, and lows, in a specific way. As well as a second, I think, glue compressor, which helps me boost the volume a bit. But so that's like my main mastering chain. But what matters more than the mastering chain is how it starts before that. And the way it starts before that is with gain staging. So every track that I start to work on, by default, all my tracks load in at -6 decibels. So they're not up at 0. What that does is it gives me...
I definitely do that. Yeah.
Awesome. So you got lots of headroom.
I had lots of headroom. The thing is that, I mean, I'm not sure if maybe I'm measuring the LUFS correctly. So I just this. I start playing the song and I activate the limiter, and the limiter, it's the Pro L2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I activate the limiter and lets me read how loud it is in LUFS. So I just let the song play and I make sure that the final integrated LUFS is a number just hovering around -14. And then I get that number, I get that track and I just play it back and I compare it to Spotify. And I definitely understand that the final volume is not as important. I definitely understand that. And I know that the song's not going to sound better only because it's louder, or it's not going to be better because it's louder.
Right.
But I feel like whenever I'm browsing through Spotify and I'm listening to song after song, there's this huge difference in the feeling that a song can give me if it sounds louder just from the beginning and I don't have to raise the volume myself,
Totally. I hear you. But I don't want this to be a barrier for you releasing music and putting music out there, because sure, we think about this as home studio music producers, and especially like you being the artist who created it. You're stressing over it, of course, but nobody else is stressing over it, Like, and I know like it is your work and it is like important to you, but there are things that we have to sort of let go of. First of all, I also think your approach could be slightly different. I know you're being super clinical with the limiter, and with like really reading the levels, but what I really want you to do is maybe move away from either using that limiter or move away from specifically just analyzing those levels and really just do some listening. Like, don't be super precise with it. If it's reading at the quote unquote right level, but you're still not feeling it's loud enough, maybe you got to bring things louder. Maybe you got to bring a couple things up. It doesn't necessarily have to hit that number or have to hit that specific, that specific standard, because Spotify is doing most of the work for you. Anyway, Spotify is going to boost tracks, and as long as you've got that headroom and you've got a good sounding mix, you're good to go. But the listening, somebody, Mr. Jules in chat just said listening is the most important part, and that's true. It could say -14 all day, but if it still sounds too soft, it's too soft, So don't try to move away from the clinical side of things. Try to just go with like, if it sounds good, it is good.
Can I just ask you, how is it that you measure the LUFS before you upload something?
I don't.
You don't. All right.
I just make sure it's not in the red. I make sure it's like just about touching 0. I listen to it. I listen to a couple of my other tracks and say, yep, these are all kind of the same volume. And I say, okay, I'm going to release it now. So that's like my thing. But like for me, like I went on the same journey as you of like, this doesn't sound perfect. This doesn't sound loud enough. This doesn't sound whatever. And eventually I got to a point where I was not releasing music because of this. And now I release more music because I do it the best that I can without overanalyzing and without giving myself a headache. And then I also just have too many things to do to have to sit there and dwell on the exact like level of the limiter or the mastering thing. So I got myself a process that works for pretty much every track. That's easy. I do it to the best of my ability, which I know is not the best that it could be, but it's the best to my ability. I'm not a mastering engineer, so it's not the best that a mastering engineer could do. It's the best that I can do. And that's the best that I can do for now. So I put out music.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, there are so many things that I have to worry about first, before really learning how to finish the last part of the mastering process. I mean, I still feel like there are a couple of things holding me back. And in order to help myself with that, I actually just bought an Arturia MK2 Mini.
Nice.
I was wondering if it's my first time getting like a keyboard and like a controller.
Cool.
So I was wondering if the knobs are actually finally fixed for Ableton.
They are.
Because I know there were complaints.
Yes, you should go watch my, I have a video on it. It's a Arturia MIDI Lab firmware update or something. Just look that up, even if you don't watch my video. But you probably have to update the firmware out of the box. So make sure you look up how to do that. Update your firmware, and their knobs are good to go.
Yeah. And are there any ways in which you feel like having knobs could improve my workflow?
I mean, they kind of make my workflow a bit easier. I mean, it's just like a flowing thing, like a little less time interfacing with a keyboard and mouse and a little more time interfacing with like an instrument. For me, that's just always, it feels more natural, and it keeps you a little more in the music making rather than just, technical, like typing and clicking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your advice, dude.
I appreciate you calling in, Ariel. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Great call. Mr. Jules. Let's get Mr. Jules in here. Mr. Jules is being active in the text chat, and I want to be grateful for that. What's up, Mr. Jules? Thank you for calling in today.
What's up, TAETRO? It's a pleasure to be here again with you.
Welcome back to the show.
Man, I'm saying here, it's amazing that a lot of us, when we are trying to put our music in all these platforms, we crashed every single time with the volumes, with levels, with all the compression that these platforms make to our music. But I guess the most important thing is to share the music and to get the sounds as we want to hear it. I mean, the platforms will do a lot of crap with our music sometimes.
That's true.
But the real thing is that our music will sound as we want, but just with another level, you know?
Sure.
It's the only thing. So don't be so rough with your music, with your ideas, with your levels. Just when you produce, well, it's a tip as an engineer. Sometimes I was saying that I was an engineer from salsa groups here in Mexico. So the most important thing is to get great sounds. And when you produce with your headphones, with your monitor speakers, or even with your laptop, just keep in mind that you want to people feel your music, you know?
Right.
So it doesn't matter that platforms will saturate or get a volume so down that even you can hear your music, because the people will be able to up the volume of their devices, laptops, headphones, etc. So it doesn't matter. The true thing and the real and the most important thing is your mix, and the mastering is obviously very important, but just keep in mind that if you hear it right, it's okay, it's enough.
If it sounds good, it is good. That's the words to live by.
Yeah, and well, that's a kind of tip for all that are in this kind of industry. And
totally,
I guess it's very important, because we sometimes we don't release our albums or songs because we are like in this engaged with the platforms and the LUFs, and you said, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my song? What happened with this? What happened with that? Damn, man, it's not good enough for the platforms, you know?
Yep. I agree. Do you have a question today, Mr. Jules?
Yeah, I have a kind of problem with with the Ableton, and maybe you have a kind of tip.
I can try.
I have this all this live set for a live set.
Mm-hmm.
I'm crashing with all the MIDI clips and also the audio ones. I mean, I'm trying to get this all my songs for a live set, but I have a lot of instruments, you know. So
sure.
Do you have another kind of way to transform the MIDI clip to an audio? You know, this is the way that I do it. I put well, I select the MIDI clip, all the time of the song, and then I export it one by one to audio.
So you're exporting the stems, is that what you're doing?
Exactly, kind of.
And are you doing that in, so you go to the export and then you say, instead of exporting the master, you can export all tracks individually? Are you doing it that way?
Yeah, I'm doing it that way. I'm doing exporting every single track to get then all the files, web files, to the next and new live set.
So what do you need to do?
Do it faster.
There's no faster way. It's literally just, you just got to, it's taken a while. Is that the issue? You're hitting export all tracks and it just takes a while? Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Rev Sabes just says, also says that you can flatten a track. You can freeze a track and then flatten it all in the same project. But if you're doing that to all your tracks, that's going to take just as much time, I think, as exporting all tracks individually. I think that's just the process. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, and I don't know what to do because, for example, I have this one. I have 26 tracks, and of that 26 tracks, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from native instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And damn, man, I'm just crashing. Ableton is at
The CPU.
75, 81%. And when I'm exporting, for example, to make these stems, I have, for example, I don't know, four instruments with the same melody. And then when I'm exporting that for one stem, I'm crashing. I don't know if I have, I can do something to get that level down.
Yeah, in that case, you might not want to just export all. You might want to export them one at a time, one track at a time, and then freeze. If you freeze all the other tracks, they won't take up any CPU. They'll take up very little CPU. So say you have one particular track that's giving you trouble, or a few, freeze all the other tracks, and then just export that one track. I mean, it's a process, but then there's also the question of asking yourself, is using all these plugins, is it worth it to save up and potentially get a better computer with a better processor, or B, is it worth sacrificing using some super intensive plugins? Are there ways you can get almost the same sound with less intense plugins? That's the question you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have tried to get the same sounds as, for example, Analog Dreams with just the Ableton instruments, and it worked. I mean, it's just tweaking some knobs and parameters, and it's great.
For sure. All right, Mr. Jules, I got a lot of calls in the waiting room, but I thank you so much for calling in today. I appreciate it.
Was a pleasure, man, and I'm releasing right now. I just
amazing.
Thank you. I want to thank you because you was a very good person to push me on to get my my work on the platforms, and I'm sharing and releasing all the things that I have. So thank you very much.
Congratulations. Good luck with the release.
Thank you very much. Follow me in Mr. Jules, my channel here in YouTube. I'm going to release a video, and there's a videos of my work right now, and I'm going to release a video here from Mexico with a great things. So
awesome. Make sure you type in the chat. Thank you so much. Make sure you type in the chat so we can click your name. Have a good one, Mr. Jules.
See ya.
Let's keep rolling. No Guns. Yes, I see you in the waiting room. I got some other calls to take. Ashok, we're going to try this again with the audio fixed. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, TAETRO, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Am I saying your name right? Ashok?
Ashok.
Ashok. Got it. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from West Bloomfield, Michigan.
Nice.
Yeah, just
that's the second call from Michigan today. That's interesting.
What's that? Sorry.
It's the second call from Michigan today.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Very interesting. But
nice.
What's your question today?
So first of all, thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome.
Thank you for calling
really
in.
Appreciate it. And actually, the last two calls you were taking. It was kind of therapeutic for me. It was just hearing about other people dealing with loudness issues.
We've all dealt with it. We've all dealt with stressing over that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually, just to quickly give you a bit of background, I'm a software engineer by trade, but I've been DJing for the past 4 or 5 years. And I actually DJ mostly at Burning Man. I don't know if you're familiar.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I just got to a point where I was like, I really want to make my own sound. And so I started getting into production about 2 years ago, but it was very much just like tinkering around. I got like an Ableton Push, and I was just, tinkering around. But then this year I've started to take it seriously, where I'm taking courses.
Great.
And during this lockdown, I also just left my job just to kind of give myself a bit more free time to focus on music a bit more.
Wow.
I'm fortunate that I'm able to do that. And but at the same time, it's put an unexpected pressure on my music.
Of course. Yeah.
Something I was not really fully aware of until I finally was in this position. So last week was really tough, where I created like 20 versions of the same song with different mastering chains and put it up on SoundCloud, and I couldn't get it loud enough. And I was having a really rough time emotionally. And then what I noticed was, the thing that was bothering me was that I wasn't putting out music.
Yep.
And I just really wanted to put out music. And I already had a track that I had almost finished prior, and I just didn't put it out because I was like, I wanted to get it perfect.
Totally.
And so after last week, I was just like, I just need to put something out.
Yeah, because perfect is the enemy of the good.
Exactly. And so I finally just put that earlier song out on SoundCloud, and it just felt like a weight lifted off my shoulder.
Great.
And so that was really good. But I guess my question to you is, the reason this has been sort of stressful to me is, I do think like the two things that are important to me is making good music that sounds as professional as it can, just from coming from me, but also building somewhat of a following. And so I'm trying to figure out what's the best approach to kind of hit those two main goals.
Absolutely. I can only speak from experience, and what I've found success in, and what I found the most success in, is just building up personality and building up community, right? Because when I was just putting out even performance videos, I got a little bit of attention and a little bit of attraction, but nowhere near the audience level that it is now. And
Right.
I did that by building up personality, by talking to the camera, by sharing what I've learned, by actually getting to know people in the community and in the comments, and allowing them to get to know me. And when you build up that relationship online, that authenticity is really what can separate you. Because I'm sure you go on SoundCloud and you see a bunch of faceless, whether it's DJs or producers or whatever, that don't have much personality and don't have much of an audience, but people will show up for people that they recognize and that they know and that they understand and that they trust, or that they've built a relationship with. So at the end of the day, that's the main thing I can recommend to anybody kind of just starting out, is just start to build up that relationship, document your process, talk like a real human being. Don't talk like you're delivering, the secret formula down from the top of the mountain. Like
Right.
if you are a relatable person and you talk about where you are at in your time, and I mean, it's just like what you talked about when you called in, and when you said you were listening to the previous call and you were feeling so much less like alone, and feeling good that somebody else was dealing with that. Well, that's what other people want too,
Right.
So that would be like my main recommendation, especially if you have lots of time. And if you watched the beginning of the stream, I did a whole breakdown of 168 hours a week. This is how much time you spend on this. This is how much time you spend on that.
cool.
And if you go back and watch that, I think it could provide a lot of value to you in your new situation, where you are now pursuing music in a much, much bigger way. If you're deliberate about your time, like time is the biggest asset. Like if you've got a ton of time now, if you just freed up a bunch of time, you have so much opportunity. And
Right.
if you're deliberate about how you use that time, you can really take advantage of the opportunity. And it's like you said with the mastering stuff, you know, it's getting stuff to sound at the level that, at the best professional level that you can make it sound. If you keep holding yourself to a standard of the best professional level that the engineers at Abbey Road Studios can make it sound, you're never going to put anything out. But if you just say, okay, today this is the best I can make this track sound, so this is how it's going out, you know, that's what you got to do.
Okay. And with regards to that, like mixing and mastering, I guess I do want to listen to the beginning of this video, but do you have like a pretty standard process you follow? Like for me, I'm thinking, or I'm wondering if it's realistic to be like, I want to release a new track like every 2 weeks. Is that,
of course, that's realistic. Like you could say, I want to release a track every day, and it would be realistic. The only thing that you have to change within the confines of that, I'll put it in the context of the Beattober challenge that I did. And I've had a couple guests on my talk show on Thursdays, which I have Sanjay C on this Thursday, so people should definitely tune in. But I've had a couple guests that have each done some kind of 30-day challenge. And for me, it was Beattober. Last October, I made a beat video every single day. And released it every single day. So what does that even mean? Well, that doesn't mean I'm doing a 5-minute beat session every day in the month of October. That means I'm doing a minute-long beat that has maybe like 5 layers to it, that's shot with one camera angle, that I can edit and get out the door, you know, so that it's possible to do it every day. That was what was logistically possible for me to do every single day. So you just figure out, if that's your goal, a track every 2 weeks. You can't use the same process that you would use to say if you were going to put an album out in 6 months, or if you wanted to, you know, even if you said, I want to put a track out every month, the process would be different than you saying, I want to put a track out every 2 weeks. So be realistic and fair to yourself in that if you're going to put a track out every 2 weeks, what does that look like? That looks different than a monthly track. That looks different than a track every 6 months. That looks different than putting an album together, and really operate within that 2 weeks and get the best possible product out that is possible within that 2 weeks for you. It's the same thing as the mastering thing. Whatever you can get done in 2 weeks to the best of your ability, that's what you can put out every 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's just like, it's a constraint. The 2 weeks is a constraint. So I need to like look at that constraint and see what will allow me to do that consistently. And like the reason I come up with that constraint is I want to consistently improve and put out music more quickly.
Yep.
Because I think I'll learn more from that rather than like this track I was trying to master. I've been working on it for a month and I really like the song still, but last week I was feeling very frustrated by it, and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and if you had moved on and released it in 2 weeks and started working on another track for the next 2 weeks, you probably would have progressed a little bit faster, because you would have started on something new and you would have applied what you learned, and you wouldn't have spent, you know, the hours that you spent listening to the 20 different versions that you know, rendered out.
Right.
So it is that you are 100% right. Putting that constraint on yourself is going to help you grow and learn a lot faster, but you have to hold to it. You can't get to the end of 2 weeks and say, well, maybe I'll just hang on to it. No, it's like 2 weeks, done, on to the next one. And then every single track you put out, you're going to look, if you do that, say you do this like 2 tracks for the next 4 months, like 2 tracks a month, and then you have 8 tracks done, you're going to look back on track 1 and say, and be able to compare it to track 8 and see super notable growth. Because you're going to learn processes way faster. You're going to learn to be more efficient. You're going to learn to leave behind all the stuff that doesn't actually matter. And you're going to, and the stuff that does matter, you're going to be able to learn to actually work with faster.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and just to add to that, I think this is helpful for others too, is once I released that track this past weekend, like that weight of just worrying about sounding perfect, I feel like is gone.
It's gone, and it allows you the mental space to work on something new. You don't feel guilty about not working on that other track anymore, because the other track is out and done.
It's done. Yeah.
It's the easiest way. It's like a hack. And by the way, like my mastering process, I have a mastering chain that I put on pretty much every track and adjust accordingly, like minute adjustments based on the different sound of the specific track. And that's realistically what works for me. I'm not reinventing the wheel every time I sit down to master one of my tracks. I make kind of the same not kind of the same track, but kind of the same style, kind of the same elements. So using a mastering chain that I can just throw on works for me and makes it so I don't sit there and agonize over the mastering process. And that's what putting the constraint on does. That's what I learned from having to make a lot of music and a lot of videos fast, is you put on that constraint, you find efficiencies.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. That's super helpful. I'll definitely go back to the beginning of this video to watch your stuff too. But
for sure.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Ariel asks, can we rewatch these streams or are they deleted? You can rewatch them as soon as we're done here. They process and then they finish processing and then you can watch them. So if you are rewatching, I would really appreciate if you commented on it, because I think the algorithm does not favor streams as videos. So I don't think it shows it to as many people. Also, if you want to take some of this advice and some of this inspiration on the go, you should check out the podcast TAETRO Radio on any podcast platform that you listen to. Just check out the podcast. You can listen to it. You don't have to sit there and stare at a screen or anything. Take some clips from it. All that. No guns. We have 2 more calls today. Then we're going to wrap it up. I remember when I said I was going to do an hour show today, and we're going on 2 hours. But that's okay. I'm having a good time with all of you, and we're able to finish these calls. No guns. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Welcome. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from Denmark.
Amazing. Thank you for calling in. What's your question today?
Yes, so I have a friend that I'm, making music with.
Great.
And we have not a band, but a,
A duo.
A duo, yes. And we are planning to make an album.
Awesome.
In the future. But I also have a solo artist name.
Okay.
I also am a solo artist. And I'm also, planning on making an album in the future with only me.
Yes, you have 2 jobs.
Yes. The album, the solo album, I have a deadline on.
A deadline that you put on? It's your own deadline? You made it?
Yeah, my own deadline.
Good.
So my question is, should I, make, or should I release my album first or the duo first?
You tell me. I don't know. Why would you? Is there a benefit to releasing one first over the other?
I actually don't know.
I don't think that there is. I don't think that it matters either way. I think you just have to make a decision. However, you have to also, since you are in a duo, you have to have this conversation with your partner. And because if your partner is feeling some sense of urgency in releasing the music for the duo, you don't want to create tension there. But you also have a very honest conversation, because if you're feeling ambitious and you really want to release your solo stuff first, then that's just a conversation you all have to have. So if the duo can wait and your partner is comfortable and you can sort of work on that music for the duo simultaneously while working on the solo music, great.
Yes.
If not, if you have to dedicate some time to one and then later on to the other, then you have to just be honest and have that conversation with your partner about how exactly you're going to approach it. What's the urgency? Are you feeling more urgent to release something solo and your partner is a little more relaxed and doesn't mind waiting on the duo stuff? Or is it the other way around? Is your partner anxious to release the duo project and you are a little less, urgent about releasing your solo stuff? Just be super honest and have that conversation.
I think it's number 2 you said. That is my partner that actually wants to do stuff faster than the solo.
Okay, then that's if you just stop wondering about this, like don't ask yourself the question anymore, and if you're comfortable with it, because it is a decision you have to make, if you're comfortable with it, then you have to really be in it and dedicate yourself to the duo project for now. You know that you're going to do solo music. You can do solo music anytime. Your partner might move to another country or something at some point, or you might not want to be in the duo anymore at a certain level. But what you can do is be very deliberate in your brain and say, okay, the next month or the next 2 months, the next 6 months, however long it's going to take you, I'm going to dedicate myself to being in this duo and releasing this music. And when that's done, 6 months is no time, by the way. Half a year is like no time at all. And then when you're done with that duo project, however long it takes, as long as it doesn't take forever, as long as it has a clear goal of when you want to release the music, self-imposed deadline of a month is cool. Then after a month, you work on your stuff. But just keep to that deadline and keep realistic.
All right. I also think that another thing that holds me back from just releasing the albums is right now I don't have a studio. So my friend and I are going to what's called studio sessions. When you
like rent studio time. Yeah.
Studio time, yes. And in Denmark, we have this that is called early retirement. When you actually get money from the government
cool.
from the state, and it's for people that cannot work properly. Psychologically or physically.
That's an advantage right there, right?
Yes. But the money we get is, in what's it called? I think is, I'm checking what it is called in US dollars, or how many US dollars it is.
Well, regardless of how much it is, so you're saying it's not enough?
It's not enough to actually what's it called? It's not enough to do both simultaneously with the money.
Yeah, I don't think you should do both simultaneously. I think you should focus on one. Focus on one for a set period of time, and that solves that problem. But then you can also think about, could you invest in some gear instead of renting studio time? Because you rent studio time and then you get it and then it's gone. You buy equipment, you have it for a while, or you have it for a long time and you keep it and it's always yours.
Yes. So I can see here that and all this is after taxes, because I pay taxes with my money.
Of course.
So after the taxes is 2,088.11. What to call it? As an almost $2,100 US.
I think if that's the money that's coming in, you should definitely be just investing in some gear to do what you need to do rather than renting time. That will serve you well, and then you'll be able to save more money in the future for sure.
Yes.
No Guns, thank you for calling in. I hope you can call in again in the future. I think focusing on one project at a time and then also investing in your own gear is the answer for sure. I have one more call I got to take and then I got to jump off the show, but I do appreciate your call today.
Thank you, and have a good day.
You too. Have a good day. All right, we're getting to the end of the show here, folks, but it's time for a very important segment. that I like to call Samuel Says. You all know him. You all love him. He's from the UAE. Our resident teen advisor, Samuel Messiah. Welcome to the show.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Calls Day. My name is Samuel, your Mentor Monday's question asker.
Here we go. Let's get into it, Samuel.
Okay, so, I mean,
that was a great intro, by the way. That was a great intro.
Thank you, thank you. I worked very hard on it.
Good job. What was your questions today?
So, about the time organization thing you were talking about in your lecture, I calculated it, and I'm basically going to school like when school starts, and like when we go physically, it's about 60 hours of school per week.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, I'm gonna try my hardest.
Hold on. That's only a 10-hour difference. Let's do. I got the Carfax right here. I'm never gonna be able to find the page again. So 60. That doesn't make any difference. Let's jump back here. So you're saying 60 instead of 50. I calculated for 50. Let's calculate it for 60. The only thing that does is reduces this number by 10. So, okay, let's say you have everything exactly the same. Do you sleep 10 hours on the weekend?
Nah.
No. So this is less. You have a little over 20 hours. If you're spending 60 hours a week at school, you don't have work, hour a day for self-hygiene, hour a day for chores, 2 hours a day for eating, and then 60 hours of sleep, which you do less of, you have 20 hours. What are you doing with 20 hours?
Probably like watching your videos.
Well, stop watching my videos and start doing something for yourself. That's what I say. Or watch one of my videos and then go apply what I talk about in the video to your stuff. That's what you should be doing, especially if you watch other YouTubers too. If that is the case, you have 20 hours.
Yeah.
How many hours of that? How many hours a day is that? Let's say even if you don't do anything on school days, Monday through Friday, that means you're spending Saturday and Sunday 10 hours each on music.
Yeah.
It's just math.
Like, I'm spending like basically my whole day, like while we're in lockdown and everything, I'm spending like literally my whole life on music production. I barely eat.
All right. Well, you need to eat. First of all, that's not an excuse. Second of all, if you really believe that, I want you to start tracking your time. So like every day you're going to keep a notebook and you're going to say exactly what you did on whatever hours. And watching YouTube videos, even though they might be about music production, is not always productive. It is not always helping you. You got to go and apply it. Maybe you watch 30 minutes of videos and then you go make something and apply what you learned. Or maybe you watch an hour and then go apply what you learned. But don't get lost in the consuming content as a lull into thinking that you're being productive. But if you really are, I believe you, because you're a very hardworking young man, and we've kind of heard what you can do. And I've seen some of your posts on Instagram, and I know that you're working very hard. So I don't doubt it. So just keep pushing and be honest with yourself about how much time you are spending on music, but also take care of yourself at the same time.
Okay, good advice. About one of last week's questions,
sure.
I forgot to ask, can you turn MIDI clips into audio clips?
Yes, you can. You just can literally freeze and flatten the track. Or you can drag the MIDI into an audio track, and I think it'll do it for you. Or if you don't want to lose the MIDI, you just duplicate the track, freeze it, and flatten it. That would be how I would do it.
Okay. Next question. So today I was recording something and then Dad just busts in on me. And like I got so mad because my door is closed and I rarely close my door. So I was thinking of making a recording sign.
Yes, you should. You should do that. Recording in progress. However, you can make all the signs that you want. If your dad needs to come in the room and tell you something, that's your dad and he's got to do that.
Yeah, but he was just being annoying.
Well, sometimes that's a dad's job. But yes, you should just write on a piece of paper on air, recording in progress.
Okay.
Or, before you start recording, you could be proactive and say, hey, Dad, please don't come into my room and be annoying for the next hour. I'm going to be recording. You could take the proactive step.
Yeah. About last week or 2 calls ago, actually, I'm cleaning my desk up. I finally, got to doing it.
Good.
Feels good.
It does. It feels a lot better, right?
Yeah.
Now don't let it get like that again and just take little steps to keep it neat and organized on the daily and you'll feel really good.
Okay. And then wait. So do you get copyrighted if I play any song?
Probably.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to find out how to get an in and out sort of vibe. Like
a pumping sound.
And then having the volume go up and down. Is that just by automation?
I believe
you do it on the whole track.
I believe what you're talking about is sidechain compression. Have you watched any of my videos where I talk about sidechain compression?
No.
All right. So what sidechain compression does is basically takes the kick. So if the kick is 4 to the floor, 1, 2, 3, 4, the compressor takes the signal from that kick and it ducks everything else under it. So the kick is hitting and everything else is ducking under it. So that's the effect that you're looking for. I just kind of described it. I've gone over it in some of my videos. If you check out a beat making stream or something, I'm sure you'll see me do a sidechain compression, but also just look that up. Sidechain compression in Ableton Live. You do it with the compressor. You open up the little hidden menu. You set the sidechain. You route it to the kick, and then you will get that pumping sound.
Okay. And then I was wondering the other day because I wanted the beat drop to feel really grand and open. So I was wondering if you could add an effect on a scene.
Okay, so you want it to not loop. You just want a sound to happen on the scene. Oh, I know what you mean. You want all the sounds.
Reverb on the scene.
Huh. Yes. Well, you can't, not on the scene, no. But if you wanted literally everything to get that effects on it, you want literally everything to be running through a specific reverb.
The whole song?
Yeah, is that what you're asking? You want the whole song to be going through one specific effect?
No, I wanted just that part of the song.
Yeah, but on that part of the song, every single instrument and every single sound will have this effect on it. You want this effect on the whole song in this particular section.
Yeah.
All right, so you could just put an effect on the master and automate it to turn on. I don't think you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it per scene, I don't think. 2 options. If you wanted it to happen per scene, you put that same effect on every single track and you automate it to turn on with that scene. But otherwise, you should just put the track into arrangement view and automate that effect on the master channel to turn on during that section and to turn off when it's over. That's how I would do it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for Samuel Says today?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to?
I've been Samuel. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Thank you for calling in as usual, Samuel.
Bye.
Bye. Great. We did it, chat. We have been live for, how long have we been live for? How can I tell? I think I can look at it here. We've been live for exactly 2 hours. I'm stoked for another great Mentor Monday. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you didn't get a chance to call in this week, I apologize, but I'm here every single Monday for Mentor Monday, where you can call in on Zoom. I got to find a way to make these streams more time efficient for sure, but we'll try to figure that out. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you want to take some of this advice with you, head to TAETRO Radio on your favorite podcast app, like on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whichever you prefer. It looks like this. It's purple. TAETRO Radio. Go ahead and check that out on your favorite podcast platform. I'm going to be working on some new videos this week. I'm finally going to make a video with the Model 12 from Tascam, my mixer. Probably make some more beat videos this week. Might do a pop-up stream live. Thank you all for tuning in the chat. I know I didn't get to everybody's chat questions, but I apologize. I'll do my best next week to answer more from the chat. As usual, give this video a like if you enjoyed it. The engagement really helps. Comment if you are watching later on, or if you see it, even if you see the upload and you watched live, if you want to just jump in and leave a comment, it helps the engagement. Make sure you check out the live performance video with Orba. I think you will enjoy it. I'm going to be answering questions about Orba in an upcoming video, so please make sure you leave questions about it as a MIDI controller, because I'm going to make that video potentially this week. Lots of fun stuff. I have new gear that's coming in that I can't talk about yet, so that's exciting. I really appreciate you all for tuning in. TAETRO Talks this week on Thursday with Sanjay C. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll have the event up later this week. Should be a fun interview for sure. And then the next couple weeks, we have very cool guests as well. But I appreciate you all. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.